Warning. Pregnant women, the elderly, and children under 16 should avoid prolonged exposure to Dirt Diggler. Dirt Diggler may suddenly accelerate to dangerous speeds. Dirt Diggler has high gluten content and is not kosher, halal, or vegan safe. Do not ingest Dirt Diggler, as Dirt Diggler is for external use only. Discontinue listening to Dirt Diggler if any of the following occurs: itching, vertigo, dizziness, discoloration of urine, tingling in extremities, loss of balance or coordination, slurred speech, temporary blindness, profuse sweating, heart palpitations, increased use of profanity. If listening to Dirt Diggler gives you an erection lasting longer than 4 hours, you're welcome. Listening to Dirt Diggler may lead to unplanned pregnancies. If Dirt Diggler begins to smoke, get away immediately. Seek shelter and cover head. Dirt Diggler may stick to certain types of skin. When not in use, Dirt Diggler should be returned to a special container and kept under refrigeration. The ingredients of Dirt Diggler include, but are not limited to, a glowing substance which fell to the earth, presumably from outer space, and bad memories. Do not taunt Dirt Diggler. Dirt Diggler does not come with a lifetime guarantee. Dirt Diggler, enjoy the show.
All right, so what's up? Welcome back to the Dirt Diggler Philly Sports Podcast, or whatever I'm calling it this week, as I haven't decided on a really official name for it. I am, once again, the dirtiest Diggler to ever Diggler for Could Diggler, and I'm going to have to go back to previous recordings to make sure I got it right. But if I didn't get it right, I do remember saying that that's what it's going to be every time I misstate it. So, whatever. Hey, look, so a lot of news. Kind of. In Sam Bradford news, because that's one of the hot topics, is easy to talk about because he's such a turd right now. So he threw his agent under the bus. Sam Bradford threw his agent right under the bus publicly. I was waiting for a statement to come from him. He gave us one, and Tom Condon went under the bus. The Philadelphia online media kind of sucks. We're going to be talking about that today in depth. Well, about as in-depth as I'll go on a podcast that's about 45 minutes long. And we're going to cover the conference championships in the NBA playoffs, the Golden State Warriors versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Toronto Raptors. So without further ado, let us begin with Eagles news, with Sam Bradford throwing Tom Condon right under the bus. So, all right. It was speculated, right? So my first podcast, when he was like, I want to trade, right? I was like, maybe it's the agent's idea. Actually, it was my second podcast. I had D from Down South on there because we talked about this. I was like, hey, look, maybe this is the agent's idea. Maybe this is the agent, trying to get paid again because that's how he gets paid. He gets paid off the contracts that his players sign. So the more contracts they sign for whatever reasons, the more he gets paid, right? So if Sam Bradford signs a massive contract, he gets paid off the top. If he gets traded and has to restructure, does Condon have to get paid again, right? But D from Down South had some great, had a great idea with that. He goes, hey, look, the agent is acting in the best interest of the client, meaning if the client is not okay with what the agent is doing, then the agent gets fired. So these agents aren't just like rogue elements running around. They're advocates. They're advocates for the player. So while the agent may have pitched the idea to the athlete has to authorize it. The athlete has to say okay. And that's what happened. So Bradford's feelings got hurt. This much was covered, right? Bradford's little feelings got hurt, and he had a boo-boo on his feelings. And then the agent creeps in and goes, hey there, Sam. I could probably facilitate a trade to Denver. Super Bowl winning franchise Denver just lost their backup quarterback, just lost starting quarterback, and they signed Mark Sanchez, which is like saying they signed a hot pocket to play quarterback. I mean, probably looks good sitting over there, but it doesn't do much under center. So Bradford goes, you know what, Tom? I like your idea. We're going to go for the trade. And they take it public, which I already covered was a bad idea because now the media is raking them over the coals. But that's another, we already covered that. So they go public. They demand a trade publicly from the Eagles. The Eagles go, okay. And the Eagles try to wheel a deal with the Broncos. It doesn't work out. And Sam Bradford's now stuck in Philly. And now he's saying, hey, look, this is where I'm at. And this is where I'm going to be. So Sam is basically saying now what he should have said publicly anyway when he was when he was looking for the trade, right? His best bet really was to skip all these things and go straight to where he is now, because where he is now is not a bad place. He understands He's going to have to go out there and ball. This much was covered. I've said as much. He understands I got to go out there and I got to play good football, and that's it. Right now I'm the starting quarterback, but honestly, he feels like he doesn't have a fair shot because of how much the Eagles gave up to get wins. And he could be right. Either way, you got to play good football. It was painted as he wanted to hand it to him. So maybe Condon wasn't as skillful in going about it as he should have been. Maybe it was a shitty idea to begin with, which is why it looks so shitty in public, because it was a dumbass idea. Like, you can only spit shine a turd so fucking much before you just get shit everywhere. So I think that's what happened. Condon went public with it. He looked like shit because it was a shitty idea, and now they're trying to do cleanup. Either way, so it doesn't really seem like there's any fallout, though. Like, us in the media, and I'm going to, I guess, consider myself part of the media, us in the media have been having our way with Bradford about this, right? Because bottom line is he was expected to come out there and play some good football this year based on the second half of last year. He's a quiet dude. It's just the petulant child routine just didn't seem to fit him. So he's been getting kind of slammed. And Philadelphia is not St. Louis. Like, the folks in Philly aren't self-righteous dipshits who like to give themselves a pat on the back for being a little racist and not a lot of racist. The Philadelphia media is totally different. They'll eat you alive. I mean, Philly, New York, L.A., these are like hostile media environments. You got to be able to play in these cities. I suppose Dallas is similar. Any major market, which St. Louis really isn't a major market for football. They're not. They're a baseball market. So either way, he's saying what he's got to say. Now, the teammates that they've talked to are all saying the same thing. Hey, look, we're happy to have Sam back. We're looking forward to the year. Zach Ertz says, hey, look, I'm not going to run my routes any different no matter who's under center. But it's nice to have Sam because they're starting to build that chemistry, which is true. They were building some chemistry, and that's part of the reason why I personally was excited about this season, because it does take a little bit of time for a receiving core and a quarterback to develop chemistry and trust and to understand each other's tendencies. It takes time for that to develop. I mean, you can have only but so much turnover, and now that we're post-Chip Kelly for the franchise, the turnover should slow down when it comes to the personnel. I mean, everyone's been purged. I think like Sam and Ryan Matthews are like the only really holdovers from that era for trades. Other than that, if you were a Chip Kelly guy, your ass is shipped out or fired. So we'll see, though. So like I said, when these losses start to pile up, if they start to pile up, then you'll start to hear how the discourse come out of the locker room. You start to hear the little birdies, say this, say that. And and you have a better idea of what everybody was feeling now, because they can put those feelings away with a win. Winning cures everything. Winning cures. Apparently, like, Colin Kaepernick was a total piece of shit the entire time he's in San Francisco, chasing other people's girls, their wives, whatever. He's like Derek Fisher, but football, right? And you never heard about it until the Niners started to suck, and now it all comes out. So, like I said, winning cures all, and this is no different. So let's hope for many wins. Let's hope for some playoffs. Let's hope, every year you want to go to the Super Bowl. So we'll see how that works out. But I'm gonna go over to the Philadelphia media, right? So I, for one, frequent like csnphilly.com and philly.com, and I go to the Eagles section and the sports section. And some of these hot takes are just so poorly done. I mean, holy fucking shit. It doesn't even make sense. Like, they try to come up with this unpopular, out of damn nowhere theory, and they have to sell it, right? And it's sensationalized, of course. So the latest one was Darren Sproles was on the trade block and or requesting for a trade, which is why he wasn't at practice. So what's rare is that you have a player, no shit, go on Twitter and go, hey, seriously, shut the fuck up, which is what he did. Darren Sproles came out and was like, yo, what the fuck are you guys talking about? That's totally false. Now, Doug Peterson has been a straight shooter for the most part. Like, I haven't seen him to where, he hasn't had a lot of time yet. There hasn't been time to prove him wrong yet for him to have fallen back on a statement he's made. But what he said was, because he answered questions about this, was that Sproles was spending time with his family. Now, let's be real. Sproles has got several good seasons of football under his belt, right? Several good seasons. He's shown the ability to function in nearly any system. He's a very talented man. He's a professional. right? He's a professional. Darren Sproles is a hell of a trooper. He's a professional, right? So if he's not at practice, they probably talked about it prior, right? So Peterson went out and made the statement. Look, he's been doing it for a while. He's at home with his family. He doesn't get to spend time with his family that he wants. He's at that part in his life where the family is like really important. And I totally understand. Like, as a family man myself, I know that there's like the one thing you can never get back is time. So when I hear players hanging out with his family, hanging out with his children, I think that's great. Like, look, dude, take a couple seconds off, get your breath, spend some time, push your swing, push your stroller, change a diaper, go to your kid's game. Be a dad, be a husband. Be a brother, be an uncle. Take care of your family. This football shit is going to be here when you come back. But don't be gone for too long, because then you'll be a step behind. But that's not a problem with someone like Sproles, who is no shit always in shape. So they fabricated the story from an unnamed source that he was requesting a trade or that he was on the trade block, and all of that shit was false. But Sproles isn't the first time. Like, I've been reading it, and for the past year or some change, they've just been making shit up as they go. And I don't know if this is exclusive to Philadelphia media. I guess I'm going to have to check out like Boston and New York to see if they do the same dumb shit. But these motherfuckers seriously just make up stories. And I kind of get it, because you got to sell clicks online. You're not a newspaper per se, right? So you don't have a subscriber base. You're not inventing machines. You have to attract people through headlines that they see on their browser in passing. So, Darren Sproles requests trade. Holy shit, let me click on that. I clicked on it. Boom. Hey, they're winning. They get a click. But you read it, you're like, this is totally bullshit. And so their credibility as a media figure goes out of the window. So this is part of the conundrum, is that you have bloggers who are pretending to be journalists, right? And that's one problem, because you have someone like me who doesn't have the pedigree, so to speak, right? Doesn't have the same code of ethics as a no shit journalist, doesn't have the same rules. And so you'll see something as what I'm saying as being thoroughly researched and are backed by sources, right? And that's the problem with bloggers, is that they pretend to be media sometimes, journalists, I'll say, and what they say, their opinions become fact because you have been trained not to question it. Whatever. So you start going to these reputable media outlets, reputable, and consuming that. Now you have journalists who are writing like bloggers, right? Sensational headlines. And since they don't have to disclose their sources, they're able to just kind of fucking make shit up. And it is Bush League bullshit. It is totally wrong to do stuff like that. Listen, if you're going to whore yourself out and fucking make shit up as you go, just like go into the thing saying, hey, look, this is utter bullshit, but I have to put this headline, so you clicked on it, and so here you are. So if you want to infuriate yourself, go ahead and read on. If not, here's a picture of cats or some shit, or a link to some YouTube video. Fucking give us a heads up, because honestly, it's tiring to read so much garbage put out by these Philadelphia media folks for the sake of a click. And I get it, it's slow, right? We don't have a lot of news, but just let there not be news. Let there not be news. Fucking learn how to write on some other shit. You went to school for this. You probably went to a college that majors in journalism. You're a fucking educated person. Act like it. Shit, man. I mean, seriously, fucking act like you know what the hell you're doing. Either way, rant over. Don't trust those dudes. If what they're saying sounds like bullshit, it's because it is absolute bullshit. And until you see something happen, withhold judgment. Don't get spun up. Like, don't hit the comments and the message boards all fucking spun up over some shit that they fucking wrote because it's bullshit. And I'll say the same goes for ESPN, because you got to remember a few years back, they couldn't get enough Tim Tebow. And Tim Tebow has proven to be a fucking less than adequate quarterback, but we could not get enough Tim Tebow. So ESPN, their journalistic chops are under scrutiny as well. So take that for what it's worth. Boom. Either way. Back to the Eagles, right? So Carson Wentz took his first official video in an Eagles uniform, and so did Jared Goff for the Rams. He took his photo in the Rams uniform, and they look pretty sharp, in their new uniforms. I mean, they haven't taken a snap in the game yet, haven't sniffed NFL speed or action. They're still doing non-contact, voluntary training camps, but this is part of the process, I suppose, to get the pictures taken and to start building up the media stuff, because this is a business. and the media presence has got to be accounted for. So that's nice. I saw the picture, right? So I saw some video of this, and Wentz did the whole Eagles bird flap thing, and it looked so awkward. It looked weird, and it looked very weird. Now, this isn't important. What's important is that if that's his touchdown celebration, it's important that I see that as many times as possible, because that means he's scoring a bunch of touchdowns, and hopefully that means we're winning games. So that's good. Now, I mean, like, you can do the fucking the chicken dance in the end zone and do the arm hook and the spin and the whole shit. And if that's what you do every time you score, I will never get tired of seeing you do the fucking chicken dance. You know, I will never get tired of seeing the chicken dance memes. I will never get tired of journalists from other cities getting pissed because they feel that they were disrespected by your chicken dance. That's why I didn't bother with Cam Newton's dabbing. I think the dab was a stupid fucking dance. But since it pissed off so many people because he was successful, I enjoyed it. You know, I enjoyed it. So hopefully Bradford and Wentz and everybody else on the Eagles has their stupid dances lined up, and they do them as much as possible. See, I hope that Michael Smith, that fucking waste of fucking space, develops into something functional and has a stupid ass sack dance that he does. I mean, I want to see that. I want to see the dude rack up like 16 this year. That will be great. That will just be fantastic. All right, so the Jags. Jacksonville, Florida. Remember that team? AFC South. Very, very weak division. The Jaguars have this guy named Blake Bortles, kind of a monster, shaping up to be a monster of some kind. Pretty good football player from what I understand. Now last year, in a twist of fate, their defensive end that they drafted blew his knee in training camp before he even signed a contract. And that's like a stroke of bad luck. But the Jaguars, they signed him either way. They paid the young man. And I like I said in the previous podcast, I thought that was pretty stand-up for them to do. I'm not sure what their obligations were going in, but it didn't seem like they put up much of a fight, and they signed a dude kind of quickly afterward. You know, he hasn't been paid yet. He's a first-round pick. You got to help the dude out. So the reason I mention that is because this year their number one pick, their first-round pick, Jalen Ramsey, has a small tear in his meniscus now in practice. And he also hasn't signed his contract. So you have 2 years in a row. You have a rookie player, you know, your first-round pick, injure his knee before he signs a contract. It's almost like you got to put these dudes in bubble wrap from the time they come off the stage from the draft until they actually start playing in preseason games, lest they blow their damn knees out. But for this to happen 2 years in a row to the Jaguars is insane. Who would have called that? Right now, it's supposed to be a small tear, and they're testing it, and they're going to see how it works, so it may not hurt him or limit him too much, but this is on a knee that's been repaired already, for one. But it highlights a bigger problem to me. I think they're filled as shit. And that's what's causing their injuries. Now, if you remember, Jadeveon Clowney came out, and he was supposed to be like this monstrous defensive end that's supposed to line up with J.J. Watt, and they were going to terrorize opposing quarterbacks and running backs. They were going to, like, everyone was looking forward to this. And what happens? He hurts his knee on that shitty-ass Texas turf. Right? He hurt his knee. Not because somebody hit him low, but because he hit a pothole on the field. So, I mean, that's insane. I mean, that's teams, these are billion-dollar industries here. I mean, this is a billion-dollar industry. These are billion-dollar franchises, you know, and these guys can't take care of their fucking fields, and it just doesn't make sense. With the amount of money the players are getting paid, it would probably be in their best interest to hire a facilities manager who knows how to plant some seed or, you know, patch some holes or something. I don't know, but there's too many folks getting injured in non-contact drills, possibly because of the condition of the practice field that they're on. I mean, seriously, fix this shit. Moving on. NBA playoffs. Now, I don't know if you guys have been watching the Cavaliers and the Raptors playing, but I will tell you what. The Raptors looked like they didn't even belong in the NBA games 1 and 2 in Cleveland. They looked absolutely lost and incompetent compared to Cleveland in both games 1 and 2, especially throughout the second half. It seemed like whatever success they had in the first half to keep it close, second half it was done. They had no answers for Cleveland. Cleveland was able to force their will. they were getting to the basket. I mean, if LeBron James or somebody is lining up in front of you, got the ball top of the key or between the the foul line and the 3-point line, and they just take a step and now they're dunking on you, you're not playing good defense, right? So but if you're going to play shitty defense, you need to be able to score points, right? So don't run down the court and hurry a bunch of bad passes, turn the ball over, because they're just going to come right back down and score on you, which is what was happening, right? So they had no answers for anything Cleveland was doing on either side of the ball. Now, Game 3 was back in Toronto. Toronto was able to win that game. A lot of suspect officiating by the refs. LeBron had a pretty flop-tastic thing he did where the guy, like, swung near him trying to do something else. His own dude hit him, and he, like, did a backward flip, and there was explosions, and Michael Bay was directing it, and he got the technical foul for that on the other player. So LeBron flopped harder than I think I've seen anybody flop in a long time, and it was annoying. But he got him his technical foul that he wanted. And that's not to say LeBron doesn't take hits. LeBron does take hits. People get physical with LeBron. He's a big dude. So he takes a fair amount of shots, but like the flops he chooses to take are so horrible. It's just like, dude, just be the tough guy, man. Just be tough. You're too fucking big to be doing this. Like, the guy didn't even touch you, and you flew, 5 yards back, backward 2 seconds after this shit happened, and the refs somehow bought off on this. So there was a lot of those calls. It was a physical game, but the Raptors were able to win Game 3. Now, I kind of wish the Heat would have won that series against the Raptors. I feel like Dwayne Wade and the Heat would have been a better match against this Cleveland team, would have made games 1 and 2 a bit closer in Cleveland. But I'm not sure how much closer or if they would have been able to win one of those games. Not without Chris Bosh. So Bosh sitting out, which I told you I respect his decision to sit out. He's getting older. It's his health. It's his body. He's got to live with it. Shit, the guy's accomplished. I kind of get it. But I kind of wish the Heat would have played against this Cleveland team. This Cleveland team is savvy. It's a savvy team. It's a good team. I don't know if they would have been the best team in the West, but they definitely would be in the playoffs either way, no matter where they were situated. So I got to give Cleveland that. They played some decent some good basketball games 1 and 2, and even Game 3. Now Game 3, the Cavaliers were a bit off, which the problem I have with them being off is that in order for the Raptors to win, because the Raptors play such hurried, sloppy basketball on the offensive side, is they need Cleveland to go cold on offense. Like, if Cleveland is scoring points, the Raptors can't keep up. The only way the Raptors can have a chance is if Cleveland simply forgets how to shoot, forgets how to move the ball, and then the Raptors get a chance. But if the Cavaliers are running on all cylinders, the Raptors don't stand a chance. If the Cavaliers are running on all cylinders, the Raptors do not stand a chance. So Game 4 is coming up in a couple days, I suppose, and we'll see if they can squeeze off a win. If not, then the series is basically over. I don't see them winning a game in Cleveland. So not after taking a loss at home. So I'm going to say, Cleveland in 5 for this series. I'm calling it now 3 games in. So there's only 2 games left, and the Cavs are going to win both. Now to the Golden State OKC series. The OKC managed to steal a win in Oakland. Now, I watched a good portion of that game, and the Warriors they couldn't put them away. Like, they were leading, but they could never really put their foot on the gas and run away with the game, which has been kind of what they do all season long, right? So the thing with the Warriors is they put you to bed, they rack up points, and it just becomes an insurmountable amount of points you have to score to win. Now, they never could put OKC away. Now, of course, in this win, you had Russell Westbrook, who came alive and had a hell of a second half for them. I want to say the fourth quarter in particular, he scored a lot of points. Steph Curry kind of went cold during that period. But I think in order for OKC to win, he has to come alive. It can't just be Durant. Like Russell Westbrook has to be alive. He's got to score points. He's got to be interested. OKC can't function on just the scoring of Durant. It cannot. Not at this point in the game. Not against a team like Golden State. Golden State has too many shooters, too many players that can play different positions and be proficient. There's just too much talent on that roster for them to rely on all their offense to go through Durant. Westbrook has to be able to generate a fair amount of scoring. The only problem with him is that he'll take reckless shots, and those reckless shots put his team at risk. And Durant does have to do some shooting, or he starts to get frustrated. So they got to find that balance. And when they do find it, they do quite well. Those games during the regular season that were close, which there were 3 of, I want to say, those were games where Westbrook played well and Durant played well. So OKC needs both teams to do well. Now, I still have Golden State taking that series in 6 because Game 2, Golden State came out and Steph Curry put a knife in those dudes. He assassinated OKC in the third quarter. He racked off like 15 points in like a minute and a half. The shit was crazy to see happen. He got like this small sliver of space and hit that first 3, and from there it was on. He was in their heads. They were running out after him. He would wait, sidestep, and pull up, open, boom, hitting the jumper. He found his jumper, and he made him pay for every little miscue, and he put the game away right there in the third quarter. Steph Curry put the game away in a minute and a half. And I watched that happen, and it was crazy. It was crazy because one of the reoccurring themes this season, as far as it pertains to Steph Curry, has been that there's like when the players are on the sideline, on the bench, they scream to their teammates, hey, look out for this, look out for that, and you get to see the camera angle, right? So you have the guy who's on the sideline behind Steph Curry screaming and yelling, and then you see his facial expression change the second the ball comes out of Steph Curry's hand. You see all this hope drain out of his face and out of his body as the ball travels through the air and just goes straight through nothing but net, and he just sinks back to his seat like, yo, what was that all about? Like, there's nothing I can do. Like, holy shit, yeah, there's nothing you can do, bro. Like, Steph Curry's a force of nature this year. That's why he's the MVP. And if you let him take the shots, he'll take the shots and he'll make them damn near every time. That's part of his dynamic. So it's it's funny because the psychological impact of playing against someone like a Kobe or Jordan or Steph Curry, just a raw scorer on a stacked team, just watching that guy surgically pull your team apart whenever they choose to do so has got to just take a psychological toll. It's got to feel like the way that Foreman felt when he hit Ali as hard as he could and Ali danced on him. It's got to feel like that because the Thrilla in Manila, right, for those of you who track boxing, that was a huge fight. And George Foreman was the favorite going in, I want to say, and he was a mauler. He was a monster. And he hit Ali so hard that Ali pissed himself. But Ali couldn't let Foreman know that. So Ali danced. And psychologically, Foreman was defeated at that point because he felt like nothing he could do could take this guy down. If he'd have known that Ali was in more pain than he'd ever been and he had actually pissed himself, he probably would have went on to win that fight. But since his mind he kind of lost hope in winning, Ali was able to take it. So there's a psychological aspect to this, and Steph Curry raining threes on you is like dancing on him. it's like Ali dancing on him. So it just has a psychological toll that you have to account for. So, wow. In other news, the Phillies don't suck still. Like, they don't suck. They're right now in the 24-19, all right, which puts them third behind the Mets and the Nationals, right? And it's like a 2-game swing, right? So the Mets are in second because they have one less loss than the Phillies do, and the actual Nats actually have 2 more wins. So it's like a 2-game swing for who can be in first place in the East, which is exciting. But it's still early in the season as far as I'm concerned. A lot of baseball has to be played, and I'm not really going to get too excited about baseball until the playoffs get close and people really start to play, because it's a long season, man. Baseball's a long season. Long-ass season. So, toward the end, when the marathon's reaching its conclusion, I'll start to get interested and give you a bit more feedback, a bit more opinions on that. So moving on to the Sixers, all right, because the only Philly news I have for basketball is the Sixers, and they are horrible, which may or may not have something to do with what was the damn thing Sam Hinkle called it, the process It may have something to do with the process. I don't know. I'm no expert in this, but I assume it has to do with the process. So, the Sixers were favored to win the lottery and get the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft coming up, right? Which they did, right? So they won the lottery. They got the number 1 pick. Go team! Don't fuck this up. What was interesting was that Dikembe Mutombo had tweeted congratulating them on getting the number 1 pick. However, it hadn't really happened yet. Like the lottery hadn't happened, and so the events hadn't unfolded. So to congratulate them on that, and then for it to happen, let me tell you what, conspiracy theorists were chasing that rabbit for a good minute. I mean, they probably still are. There's probably still someone, in their mom's basement, putting a lot of time and energy into figuring out what happened with this, with the lottery. But I mean, it was going to happen. I mean, you had between them and the Lakers, he was going to have first because they were both horrible teams, and they got the most balls in the bin or whatever. And so, boom, the Sixers won. But it is hilarious that Mutombo congratulated them prior to them actually winning. He deleted the tweet, which I guess is good for him, but I just thought that was funny. So, all right. So, I'm going to start a new segment. It's called, Why Your Division Sucks, right? It's going to be around football. Now, I'm actually stealing this from an author on Deadspin named Drew Margery. I think I pronounced his name right. He's a Minnesota Vikings fan, and he's one of my favorite writers on that website. He writes, it's like a comedy website, so to speak. They do sports, but they just kind of speak how they want to speak. There's no, there's an agenda and everything, right? They're a Gawker site, so there's an agenda involved in these guys. But Drew's one of my favorite writers, man. He writes some pretty funny stuff, some pretty good material, and every year he does why your team sucks for the NFL, and he looks at all the teams. They're the good and the bad and the ugly and the future and all the other shit. And the way he writes it is pretty entertaining. Now, he's done one team a day. He's done a division a week. He's done a couple different formats for how he releases his content with regards to that, right? Now, this is a writer on a website, so he's constantly producing things. He's also apparently a dad, and he was on Chopped or some shit, the TV show, so he cooks a little bit, which is interesting. He had this dumbass dance he did. Fuck him. Either way, look, one of my favorite writers on that website. I'm gonna steal his idea. I'm gonna give him credit. Hey, Drew, if this comes around and you actually listen to this podcast, I'm stealing this from you. I think the idea is good, but I'm gonna do it my way. I do like the concept though, so I'm gonna do why your division sucks. So, in other podcast related news, I now have a presence on iTunes. For those of you who only get your podcast via iTunes, I can be found on iTunes. If you look for Dirt Diggler, you will find me. I will show up. I'm the asshole with all the Eagle stuff in the picture. You'll see, right? I'm the only podcast under that name right now. So go look me up, right? I'm going to release this podcast, and then this one and all the other podcasts I've done will be available to you in iTunes. So, boom. Apparently there's a thing where you don't have to pay for data if you're streaming shit from iTunes. I don't know. I don't really deal with iTunes too much, but I'm on iTunes now. So, booyah. I'm also on a website called Stitcher, which I didn't know much about. I still kind of don't. But if you're on Stitcher, then I'm on Stitcher too. So go look me up. And I have an email address as well. Diggler2823 @gmail.com, right? So that's DIRTDIGGLER 2823 @gmail.com. And please send me your suggestions, your hate mail, whatever, your midnight confessions. And if the shit's good enough, I'll read it in the podcast, and you might just be internet famous for 5 minutes of fame. I don't know. Hey, look, I can only be facilitator as best I can. I'm up to 23 followers, so woo, right? Woo. When I break triple digits, I may actually pop champagne while I'm recording, and maybe not. I don't know. I'll figure something out. But it's exciting, right? It's exciting. All right, this is a little hobby of mine, and to see it start to grow and become a thing is nice. So for all those supporters out there, I appreciate your support, and I appreciate your continued support going forward. So as it stands, hey, look, I'm Dirt Diggler. the Dirt Diggler, and it's been real. Thank you.